Hey everyone, it's UA from the Strictly Broken YouTube channel, and today I have a Chaos Breaker Dragon. Is it Dragon? Let's read it. It is a Dragon. Cool. Chaos Breaker Dragon deck profile for you guys. Clan Selection Volume 1 came out, and we have a bunch of cool new decks. Fortunately, I don't think this one's particularly good. Sorry to all you Chaos fans. It's like just the reality of it. It feels like, so you know how they say that V Premium is going to get, one release a year to support it? It feels like that Chaos Breaker is due for something else later down the line, because so you have 12 Starvator units, and they work well together. They actually work very well together, making this a very piece reliant deck. And then every other card in like a friend of mine and fellow sponsored Strictly Broken TCG player, yellow card Vanguard Ben, wrote in his article, it's like the perfect way to describe it. Everything else in the deck feels super auxiliary to the game plan, and it does work with the game plan, but it's like super, like the deck definitely feels like it wants some better units. So every other unit that isn't the 12 main ones is kind of just like super whatever. With that being said, Chaos does appeal to a certain kind of player, a player that enjoys playing games when your opponent feels like they can't play the game. And, this deck is really good at doing that. When it gets to do what it's intending to do, it's super good. And you usually get like a 2-turn pivot that basically lets you kind of catch up from falling behind early game. The deck falls behind really early, gets that 2-turn pivot, gets like a lot of cards back, and stabilizes there, and hopefully wins the game. So, at least this build anyways. There's a more aggressive build too. I like that way to play this deck. Yeah, let's get straight into the profile. That's enough of an introduction. First off, of course, you got the 4 CBDs. I didn't play CBD in Premium when it came out, but, this effect, to me, feels very underwhelming. Giving your opponent a force marker is actually kind of annoying sometimes, because you kind of have to, like, draw guard or bust. Sometimes you can play a play pattern in a way where you get rid of that force marker immediately on your turn, but usually when you try to like set up the double front row lock, which is like what this deck's trying to do against every single fair deck, that's when you win the game. You have a bunch of unfair decks that clear their board, Night Rose, Pale Moon, even like stuff like MLB. It's just super annoying for this matchup. But in any deck that you can actually set up the double front row lock, it's pretty free. I think you usually win the game when you double front row lock and then play the card that keeps them locked for an additional turn or multiple more turns. Second effect is just your value engine, right? So you typically use this, like, let's say you do like double front row lock for 2 turns, and then with the one copy of the grade 1, then on the next turn you unlock, you get to draw a bunch of cards, and that's when you stabilize, and you don't actually have many multi-attacks or whatever, so stabilizing with a large hand is very, very important. In fact, when you have that large hand, you can maybe draw pieces to maybe start doing a double lock front row again. Also, it's just pretty good. It refunds your grade 1 Starvator dog, right? The draw effect, when you try to like loop the dog on your turn, you can just refund the -1 that the dog creates. So yeah, the effect is good, and stacking the markers, I don't even need to talk about it. You kind of need that effect because they don't give a force marker to this card. It's like pretty inconsequential, because like if you just had this card with a force marker, you wouldn't really care if it gave markers, but it also does that, which is a good effect. But all in all, a very flavor. Can I even say flavor? It is flavorful to the Starvator mechanic from Premium of days past, but definitely a little bit underwhelming, I feel like. Especially because you don't have like crazy support yet. I feel like with the right support, this card could be just fine. Next up, I do play I'm just going to show them together. I play I don't even know the name of it. It's just the other Cyber Dragon, the Nordstrom Dragon with the grade 1. I don't remember the name of any card, honestly. But this dragon plus this dragon. So some people don't like the grade 3 dragon. I think it's really necessary, because if you don't draw the full combo of all 3 Starvator units, like this, the grade 2 and the grade 1, and if your opponent has full board, you actually can't. You literally cannot. Like, if you're missing the dog, for example, you can't double lock front row. It's actually impossible. So you kind of want to. You need to you kind of have to play a card that clears a card on your opponent's board so that you can still do the double lock front row play. And so I think not playing the grade 3 dragon is just an int. And then you're obviously playing this card because this card does like many things, right? This card helps you ride CBD if you're missing it already. So it gives you extra check and puts that on hit Vanguard pressure. Your opponent might have to give you a lot more cards, right? In the end, you're playing like a grindier game. And if your opponent has a lot of cards, it's hard to play a grind game because your opponent just has just as many cards as you, right? You're playing against these like protect decks that draw a bunch of cards. And if you can't create early game on hit pressure, they can just hoard their cards and stuff. So, having these kind of on hit effects is really good. That being said, also, when you're going first, for example, or even if you're going second, and you get the chain of going like ride this into any of the grade 3 dragons, it's really good because you get to save a lot of shield, right? You're saving at least 15k shield when you're going second, and you're saving. You're probably saving like your entire hand if you're going first. So if you like do not whip this dragon and it pops off, you're saving a lot of cards. And again, going late, saving cards for later, pretty important. So I like the 4/4. Some people don't even play this card. Some people play less. I just want to, as consistently as possible, resolve this card into one of these in the early game. And this card is just an amazing card because it is a way, like I said, to set up the lock combo when you don't draw all 3 of the Starvator pieces. That's that. Then 4 copies of this card. So this card actually sucks. You don't really use the effect that often because, like, if you have double lock front row, you really don't care about using this card. This card is slightly better for like the Excel matchups, right? It's more for that. But even then, like, that means you have to first open with one of these dragons because this dragon sets up the first binded card, and then you can start using this card's ability. If you don't even get the first dragon, this card is always a blank. So this card's very inconsistent, but you don't really have better cards you want to play. You could play those like beefy grade 2 cards, but they don't really contribute to like the double lock tempo win the game kind of plan. They're just like kind of there, kind of being kind of beefy, and you don't really need them on the board even. So I'd rather just play this because it does come up with Excel, even though it's like kind of inconsistent, the effect. It's not like too incredible or anything. It's just you had the space, so I play 4 of this. And next up I'm just going to put it down here. I can put these here. I got 4 copies of the grade 2 Starvator unit and then 4 copies of the grade 1 Starvator unit. So like I said earlier, literally full combos having one of each of them. So you're playing this extremely piece reliant deck. The reason you need all 3 of them is because you go Doge. So you go Chaos Breaker lock, then you go Doge pivot the lock unit off to the board. Use Doge to lock the other front row unit, and then you play the grade 2 to lock the open slot. Because this card needs to lock an open slot. So if your opponent is just a little bit smarter, they go full board, or they don't even need a full board. As long as their front row has filled units, you need the full combo to be able to lock their full front row, so they can't play the game. So that's inconsistent in itself. Thank goodness that the Doge in the entire early game, if you just have it as a booster, can like easily find you the pieces needed to do full combo. Like if you open something like double Doge and you just keep trying to create on hit pressure with that Doge, like you're probably gonna find at least one of this, and then this, you also have this to find it. So you're actually just online usually if you draw Doge, but some games you don't have Doge and you only have this, and it's like a little bit awkward because then if they put again 2 front rows, you're kind of boned. So yeah, and then other than that, they do have their second abilities. This one pluses, like I said earlier, which is incredible actually. It's super important to the deck, and this gives your Vanguard 2 crit, which is like good, but it's good for like that final blow once they've blown through all their PGs, right? Because you don't have to like wait multiple turns to end the game, right? But it's like a pretty whatever effect. Again, I feel like the deck's missing some units that do something a lot better that the deck needs, but for the time being, it's just these 12 Starvators. Next up, probably the most important card of the deck is this Deleter card. Again, these names are really, really long, and I don't know them. So this one is Soul Blast 1. Your opponent basically can't unlock their cards during the next turn. This is what creates that kind of double turn pivot where you go lock front row, lock front lock front row, lock front row with the combo, or you can go, you know, with this, and this. So, and then they have that locked front row. Then you play this card, Soul Blast, and they can't lock it at the end of the next turn. So they basically can't make rear guard swings, especially if you're playing against Force and Protect. They just have no rear guard swings for 2 turns. And with that, you know, added amount of leeway that you get from not having to guard that hard for 2 turns straight, you should be able to make a huge comeback and do a bunch of damage over the 2 turns, and then, you know, draw a bunch of cards and ultimately stabilize and win the game that way. It's a very go long kind of deck. Like, even against stuff like Angels that tries to aggressively kill you as soon as they hit grade 3, you just have to guard the entire early game, hope they don't kill you. You get a 5-6 damage leeway to hit a heal or something, or they just don't get lucky with their crits. Then you're probably at 5, but you can lock their board, and then you can actually usually come back from that. That's typically what happens. Like, even against decks that aggressive, as aggressive as Angels, it's actually perfectly fine, the game plan, as long as you draw the pieces you need to play the game, which is kind of dumb, but, you know, that's chaos for you right now in V Premium. 4 copies of the grade 3 Searcher, just to make sure you can play the game. You know, this also searches the Dragon here, so that you can set up full combo. So it's actually very important. Also 13k booster, which is obviously nice. The booster slots are a little bit clogged. You know, thank goodness the dog is like an amazing card to slap down that actually has a card effect that can get itself off the board, because your back row is like so clogged, they don't actually do anything very valuable. And so once you have like, what is it? Like, once you have like this on the board, it's staying there unless you want to overplay. And you don't want to overplay because you want to use cards as shield. So, you know, thank goodness the dog at least gets itself off the board when you want to do like an effect with it. So that's pretty good. Regardless, this 13k booster is solid, and you need it to literally find your pieces. And then finally, I have one slot. It's like a 4-4-4-4-4 kind of deck, because you really want to draw all of these cards. There's like no reason you don't max out, because you really want to draw them all, except for this bad card. But it's actually really needed in the Excel matchup, so you do play it. And I had one slot basically, and I was like, well, I want to enable this card in Excel matchups because this card's kind of important. So I play this card to basically hopefully get that 1 card bind so that I can use my card effect. And other than that, it's just like a one of, like, you don't see it, whatever, who cares? It's like horrible in every other matchup besides Excel matchups, so whatever. And then for triggers, can I fit these in the cam? Probably. Just move stuff up. Boom, boom. I got 8 crit. Let me put this here so my head doesn't cover it. 8 crit, 4 heal, 4 PGs, and starter. So I don't like playing draws. That's just me. Some people are like, draws great. Like I mentioned so many times about needing pieces for combos, and people say draws are great for that, but, you know, draws are not really great for that, because while you do get like one more filter when you do trigger draws or defensive draw, which, by the way, defensive draw is the absolute best case for draws. Even triggering draws are like not that amazing or stellar. You don't actually average more shield off of your draw triggers, right? Because draws are 5k shield in hand. So the net value of draws is not actually that impressive to me, because I'm trying to survive early on so that I can stabilize and kill. If I just end up drawing draws, it's just such a bad amount of shield in my hand. It's hard for me to, you know, survive through the early game. I'd rather just have a crit. Obviously, defensive draws is like a fantastic way to survive longer, because you're getting that defensive 10 and an extra card. So, you know, that's when drops really shine. But I feel like when you hit defensives anyways, you're already happy, and getting that extra card off draws, like it doesn't make you, basically, if you hit the defensive, you're fine already. So like the draw defensive to get you that extra card is like super whatever. And we do have 4 draws with the PGs, so it's fine. Anyways, that's the deck list. I like the way it's built right now. You know, I tested some builds with like mixed ratios, 2 copies, 3 copies of it. But ultimately, like, what card here do you want less than 4 of? And I just concluded that was how I wanted to play it. A lot of people do feel like this grade 3 dragon is really bad, but you actually literally need it for combo when you don't draw Doge. the front row lock combo, so I have to play it. It is a 1-for-1 with your card giving this up for their binded cards, so it's like kind of like awkward. And Vanguard 1-for-1s are pretty it's not like Yu-Gi-Oh, but I think it's a necessary evil, but it's up for debate. Anyways, that's the profile. Try it out. It's fun, but not too great. It's UA signing off. Peace, 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 peace.